Okay, so we're here at video number 3. The first video in this series was on your cosmic self, that which is beyond this world. The second video was on your unique self as you incarnate into this world. And this third video is on how that unique self tries to find its path through the ego and the morass of the world. So we're going to talk about the quotes directly from Parashra that set out the whole practice of astrology. So I'm also going to do a case study of Angelina Jolie where I'll read her chart, not only on the surface level, but go deeply into some of her hidden motivations, how to see those motivations based on the principles of Sankya philosophy. This video is where we're really going to bring it all together. And I'm also going to flesh out the Gunas and the subtleties of Sankya philosophy even a little more deeper for you. And by the end, you're going to definitely know why it's best to learn both astrology and the yogic philosophy at the same time. So I want to start with the very powerful quotes from the text Briyat Parashra Horasastra that really sets things in motion. The unborn Lord has many forms. He has taken form as the 9 grahas to bestow on the living beings the results due to their karmas. He is Janardhan. He assumed the auspicious form of grahas to destroy the demons and sustain the divine beings. Ahamkara is of 3 classes, with sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic dispositions. The divine class, sensory organs, and the 5 primordial compounds of space, air, fire, water, and earth are respectively from the said Ahamkaras. After completing the mission, the Jiva Atma portions from the grahas take births as human beings and live their lives according to their karmas. Then again they merge into the grahas. At the time of the great destruction, the grahas as well merge in Lord Vishnu. The one who knows all of these will become versed in the knowledge of the past, present, and future. Without a knowledge of Jyotish, these cannot be known. Hence, everyone should have a knowledge of Jyotish, particularly the Brahmin. Out of the many luminous bodies sighted in the skies, some are stars, yet some are grahas. Those that have no movements are the nakshatras. Those are called grahas that move through the nakshatras in the zodiac. The said zodiac comprises of 27 nakshatras, commencing from Ashwini. The same area is divided in 12 parts equal to 12 rashis, commencing from Mesha. The names of the grahas commence from Surya. The rashi rising is known as Lagna. Based on Lagna and the grahas joining and departing from each other, the native's good and bad effects are deducted. Sri Vishnu, the invisible, is time personified. His limbs are the 12 rashis, or zodiac signs, commencing from Mesha. So in these texts we can see the structure of all Vedic astrology laid out and connected to the Sankya philosophy. As it says, we incarnate as a jiva into this world due to our karmas, then live in accordance with that. Remember in the first video, the moon is the Jiva Atman, the sun is the Param Atman. So we try to live in accordance with that highest self in this world and not get dragged down into our more animalistic nature. I described the 3 gunas in the last video as the structures through which we're evolving in this lifetime through the body, mind, and spirit. From a more bodily perspective where we're attached to our form, that's the tamasic level, to a more emotional level, which is more subtle and refined part of the body, which is also related to rajas, to something closer to a spiritual dimension, which is more aligned with the heart and love. But we could see in all of those quotes that astrology is the science where we are evolving in this lifetime in accordance with these divine principles, not just the gunas, but the 5 elements, as he said, are also there. We're going to be talking about that, but also talking about the structure of how Lord Vishnu in this invisible form is the zodiac. He says time personified, the invisible form. And so he also says that at the end of our lifetime, the jiva's energy merges back into the grahas. So at the end of our life, our life energy merges back into the planets until we incarnate again, and they pull us here again, for example, the life you're living now, and then we experience ourselves as a jiva again, trying to evolve and understand ourselves as this pure nature of the grahas, like I said and like they said. Again, I'm not just making this up. It's in the texts. So understand these things clearly as we discuss how and why we are tangled up in the ego. So this is really what the astrology chart is doing, evaluating our ego and our sense of separateness, our illusion of separateness, at least at first. Then when we can trace the path back home to all of this sattvic energy in the highest sense and the transcendent energy, we can start to leave the ego behind. But this illusion starts with the ascendant, and it's both that powerful, unique identity that we're expressing, but also the attachment to that identity that keeps us stuck in the play of the gunas that I just mentioned, where we're usually looking for some type of heightened emotional experience relative to our ascendant and calling that spiritual. But each of the 12 ascendants revolve around the planetary rulers, the elements, which are masculine and feminine, also the disposition of the planets relative to that ascendant, what the planets rule. So we're going to use the chart of Angelina Jolie as an example. By the way, I use her as an example because she's not very controversial and she's well known and we have a good birth time for her. But, you got to be careful these days because everybody's controversial. So as you can see in her chart, she has a Cancer rising sign. Cancer is ruled by the moon, so it shows that sort of lovely, gentle appearance. She also has Venus right on the ascendant, right near her ascendant, so we can see her beauty. Very much the first house is that appearance. But she also has the moon, Jupiter, and Mars up there in Pisces in her 9th house. This shows a real tendency toward children, motherhood, inspiration, and higher purpose. These are very powerful Raja Yogas to bring those things into her life. So even though she's a celebrity and well known as a public figure, Venus rules the 11th house in the 1st house. Underneath it all, her deeper nature and her connection to Dharma and truth revolve around things that are more, exalted and more elevated, related to children, related to making a bigger difference in the world. And her identity is about being inspired toward those things. So let's stop there and back up a little bit, because I just said several things that are very important to understand if you're going to do astrology correctly, which means you have to do things in the right priority and in the right sequence in order to do it correctly. This thing I'm saying now is the biggest reason why, even though many of you have gathered a lot of information about astrology, you can't really read charts very effectively because everything is out of order. It's in the wrong sequence. You can't make much sense of it. I first described the quality of her ascendant, which is Cancer. Its rulership is the moon, and what those things mean, right? I looked at a planet in the 1st house as showing her appearance and other personality traits, because that's what the 1st house is. Then I looked at where the ruling planet goes, and it's joined other planets. And I synthesized what those planets might mean based on the houses those planets rule from that ascendant. In her case, the ruling planet is joined both Jupiter, which is the indicator of children, and Mars, which rules the 5th house of children. Then I described the house they were in. In general, the 9th house, which is very auspicious and inspiring. Then I stated those planets form many Raja Yogas for children, right? Raja Yogas are simple yet incredibly powerful structure that you need to understand if you're ever going to be able to prioritize the power and benefit in astrology charts. In this case, we have the rulers of the angular houses with the rulers of the trinal houses in the trinal house. If that sounds too complicated, it really isn't. It's just a matter of learning it. Every planet rules usually 2 houses from each ascendant, and the qualities of those rulerships are different. The qualities of rulerships depend on many things that are also deeply connected to Sankya philosophy and these Indian teachings. The Gunas are the foundation. Her Cancer ascendant is sattvic, which is motivated towards purity, goodness, like the mother's love of a child. It's selfless love. That Venus in her 1st house is about transactional love, like romantic love, where there's a lot of desires. So in many ways, this is why you can see her desires and her romantic desires with partnerships are a bit at odds with her deeper sattvic nature to want to nurture children and things like that. The gunas and the elements are so important. Again, that Cancer is also a water sign, which is related to devotion, nurturing. That water energy feels great, giving that selfless love, like a mother's love for children. But in romantic relationships, it can create this longing, this difficulty, and especially with Venus in the 1st house, we can feel disrespected and unappreciated because we're too emotional about these attachments. So as it said in the text from Parashra, gunas and elements are like a foundational principle, and we never get too far away from those things. For example, the concept of Dharma is very important as one of the four Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. They're mostly seen and illustrated through the astrology houses because the houses are really how our life plays out on Earth more than anything else. So the planets that rule the Dharma houses connect us to Dharma. I bet you've used the word Dharma your whole life, might even use it a lot now, but do you really know what it means? Well, it simply means the truth. The truth of life as you experience it as a unique being, at least